Hello and welcome to the Neurodivergence and Mental Health podcast. My name is Sally Nilsson and I'm a psychotherapist, published author, public speaker and mum. I discovered my autism and ADHD aged 56 in March 2021, and having rewritten my life story, I'm on a quest to advocate for neurodivergent community. I hope you enjoy listening to my incredible guests sharing their experiences of autism, ADHD, dyslexia, dyspraxia, dyscalculia, Tourette's and OCD. We talk about growing up, education, work and personal stories, and how mental health has played its part in shaping lives. Our conversations cover spectrums, traits, challenges, acceptance and successes. So sit back, relax and find out what it means to feel, think and be different in a neurotypical world. Hello and welcome to the Neurodivergence and Mental Health podcast. I'm Sally Nilsson and today I'm absolutely delighted to meet Melly Moore. Great to meet you, Melly.
Great to meet you too, Sally. Thank you for inviting me.
You're very welcome. And I absolutely love Melly. I don't know how many of our listeners have come across you yet. You're relatively new, but what's been happening is I've been seeing you on all my platforms. I can't get away from you. You keep popping up with your lovely smiley face, full of confidence, full of the passion to want to support us ADHD lot, get us feeling better, improving our mental health. So we're going to find out all about what you do. So what I'd like to do, if I may, is I'll ask you to just introduce yourself, where you live and what you do in the area of neurodivergence, please.
Sure, I'm Melly Moore. I'm from Montreal, Canada, Quebec. So I'm far away from you, Sally.
You are, it's wonderful.
So yeah, I decided to open a TV show on YouTube about ADHD and mental health awareness because I was like in a very hard period of my life. I couldn't find any job because of COVID. It was like a very depressed moment of my life. And I decided, instead of doing nothing, why not just doing a show and sharing my story as well? So I decided to open an account on LinkedIn. I already had an old account long time ago that I haven't touched it. I had more than 5,000 people in it that I don't know. And I was like, I need to refresh that and make it brand new. So I just make another account and I decided to share my story, and it's going to be my first year of LinkedIn, if I'm not wrong, the 15th of April. So now so I have more than 3,000 people following me right now, and I hope to have more, of course. But I'm so happy that because the people are really engaging with my videos, and when I'm in live on LinkedIn and YouTube, people are always coming, asking questions to the guests. And it's always fun because I invite guests that are very different from me, so we have interesting conversation about mental health and neurodiversity. So it's very cool, and I really like doing what I do. And I had my first sponsor last month, and I'm just like, yay.
Let me just ask you about that sponsor, because that's quite interesting. I have just been downstairs because I'm an ADHDer, and for me, coffee makes me go to sleep, sugar makes me crash. So I just downed a small sugar-free Red Bull with the hope that it's going to give me some energy because I'm absolutely knackered at the moment. But you've got a special energy drink, and I think they're your sponsor. What's it called, and does it work for ADHD?
It does work. I'm not saying it's a magic pill. So if you use a medication, still use it. It's not going to interfere with your medication anyway, and it's just going to help you just focus better and relax your brain for the other things that you're thinking in your day. And yes, there's one version with caffeine when you're in a crash at the middle of the day and you need just to get up, and at the same time you still need to focus at the same time. You don't want to sleep because yes, caffeine sometimes makes me sleep, but not all the time. But with this one is made with other ingredient that helps focus at the same time, because the problem with ADHD or any neurodiversity that needs to have difficulty with focus. It's simply that you're tired, but at the same time, your brain is tired too. So it's making your body and your brain wake up, but at the same time, it makes the other sound around you quiet. So
I like the sound of that. So what's it called? 0B?
0 dB, like dB, the sound.
Okay, so 0 dB. I'm going to have a look at that because, you know, I'm not on meds. That's just my choice. But the thing is, you know, it would be so nice just to have something occasionally to give me a bit of a boost, because at certainly this time of the afternoon, and it's 3 o'clock here and 11 o'clock in Quebec, 3 o'clock in the afternoon, I take a nosedive. So, so Melly, your ADHD, we've got that. Do you have any other co-occurring conditions? I love to ask my guests that, because that brings up lots of wonderful, wonderful differences that us neurodivergent lot have. How about you?
I have anxiety, and I always had anxiety when I was a kid and everything like that. But I think COVID and being lack of money, having problem with that kind of field gave me even more anxiety, even more stress. I feel like you just pop up from not nowhere, but even worse than it was before. And it's mostly because I don't know what's going to happen now. There's a war, will be war, and etc., etc. Everything that's happening around me is very stressful. And sometimes I'm so stressful that I cannot work because I just can't focus, you know. And as ADHD with anxiety is like more impossible to focus. And this calms you down as well.
Yeah, and that is good. But the thing is as a psychotherapist, I work with stress, anxiety, and depression, and then what we use to cope when we can't cope with stress, anxiety, and depression. But it layers up, and when the different stresses and anxieties layer up, then we head for meltdown and burnout. But do you find that when things layer up, so it could be the war, it could be maybe we don't like the way we look, work isn't going very well, we've had an argument with someone. Have you ever got to the point of burnout?
Of course, I had meltdown when I was a teen, when I was a kid, and sometimes my mom was like, I don't know what to do, and she was just leaving where I was, you know, she was just going out the door because she didn't know what to do, and she let me cry by myself, you know. And it can be very scary for other people to see you like crying for no reason, because for them it's for no reason, and sometimes you don't know why you cry and why you feel like that. You have no reason, you don't know why, you don't see the reason behind it. And when you stop crying and you feel a bit better, you realize the reason afterwards. But if somebody's around you and asks what's wrong, you sometimes you don't know what's wrong yourself. Your body knows, but you don't know yet, you know.
I totally understand that. And from because I'm autistic as well, and I know that ADHD people and autistic people can have alexithymia, which is, or thymia, however you want to pronounce it, apples, pears, I don't care, you know, whatever. But basically, alexithymia is when you don't recognize your feelings, and something might happen on a Monday morning, but you don't get the feeling of it until Thursday afternoon. So Thursday afternoon, all of a sudden you have a burnout, a meltdown, or you're emotionally deregulated, and you've got absolutely no idea whatsoever where it's come from, but it could have come from what happened a few days before. We're a bit difficult like that, aren't we, with our emotions? But let's crack on, because I've got lots of wonderful things to ask you. Okay, so if you're happy to tell us how old you are, that would be lovely. But what I just want to find out with you, Melly, is when did you discover your ADHD, and what was your assessment and diagnosis journey like?
Oh, nightmare.
Another one. What happened?
When I was a kid, when I was in preschool, you know, my mom bring me to an English school, okay, because my mom is English more. It's not actually my father's name. So I use my mother's name in English platform because it's way easier for people to pronounce. So my mother is an English speaker, and she told, why not teach her English? You know, English is important too. She's living in a French environment. I'm allowed to bring her to English school, so why not?
Yeah.
But that teacher, oh my God, the teacher, I have ADHD, so I was moving around, doing a lot of noise, compared to the other kids. I was not able to sit down still, listening to the teacher, anything like that. So that teacher, oh my goodness, sometimes she strapped me on a chair. She put me on the chair and she was putting a rope and she said, don't move.
No, that's terrible, Melly.
She was doing that, and that's traumatizing me. I didn't want to speak English for years because for me, that's a bad
that's terrible trauma.
Yeah, and that teacher was very old and old school, and she was like always calling my mom to get me at school because I was not listening and she couldn't cope with me, and I was not a bad kid, I was not putting fight or anything. I was just moving too much and bringing too much air to the class, and after that she said she should go, she used the word retarded, by the way, and she said she should go check it out, and that teacher made me go to another class. So I missed a year of school. I didn't miss a year of school, but in the curriculum of school, it makes me lose a year, okay? Because she makes me go to a special class before going to the first grade in primary school, okay? So she made me lose a year for that, which I couldn't do all my years because I did all my years normally or almost normally after that. And so they put me directly on meds when I was a kid, and I didn't want to take the meds.
How old were you when they said to you, you're ADHD and here's medicine?
Probably 5 or 6.
Oh, right, okay. Yeah, and actually in the UK, Melly, that's when they tend to do things with kids in the UK, is 6 years old. And so with meds, just asking you about that, the meds that they put you on when you were 6, are you still on the same meds? What's your meds journey like? How old are you now, if you don't mind me asking?
33.
You're not 33.
I definitely am 33.
You are not 33. You look 21, for goodness sake. You make me
I was born in 88.
Oh my gosh, you're amazing. I think you look absolutely fantastic. So so how is your, I know this wasn't the question, but it's just come in naturally. How has your meds journey changed from age 6 to age 33?
Oh, I stopped meds when I was 14 and I didn't see any difference with before and after. So the meds didn't really work. My mom said yes, but I think it's more like a placebo effect than a real effect because I didn't really see a big difference and I was able to finish high school without them. So I don't think it's necessarily what was needed for me. It was more in a smaller class. When I was in secondary 1 and 2, I was in a special class, but I was doing my real secular, I was doing really 1 and 2, but in smaller class for one teacher. And it was for people that had difficulty with learning disorder. So there was a lot of other people in that class that had difficulty, and that helped me a lot. After I was able to do my 3 and my 4, and I decided to abandon school at 4, the 4th class, because I was really not good. I was not understanding anything, and I did my 4 and my 5th in adult school, where they give you books and you do whatever in your time you need to do. You can take 10 years if you want to, and I finished at the same time that the other students finished their secondary 5. The same here that they did. And I did. Did
it work better for you then? Was it a better place for you when you went and you did it like that? And that's very good. But I did see earlier when I was just doing a little bit of research before we came on air today about you being bullied. And I was bullied terribly. I mean, I have to say, looking back, it was character building. The adversity of the bullying that I experienced made me strong and made me resilient and made me very compassionate to other people that were bullied. Tell me a bit about what that was like for you at school, Melly.
I think I was bullied a little bit more in primary school because my mom was working at the same school. So I think it was one of the reasons too, mostly that my diversity. In high school, I was a little bit less bullied. I was still bullied, but less because I was in a special class. So other person like me was there, So we understand ourselves. Of course, they were some fight and some problems, yes. But when I look back and I see some teen movies from the US, I was not bullied like that, okay? It was not that terrible, you know?
I was, Melly. I was. We have two shows in the UK, an old one from the 70s called Grange Hill, and then there's a new one called Waterloo Road. And my secondary school was rough. It was rough. And my mum put me in there with a nice speaking voice, a show off, materialistic. Honestly, I was an awful person, really. And so I got ripped to pieces emotionally, not physically, I might add, but it was horrible. So how old were you when you finished school?
18.
So, all right, so you were 18. So, you know, it wasn't like you finished at 15. So how was your mental health at that point?
It was good because I was leaving a toxic environment at home because I was going to Ontario studying.
Yeah. And what were you, and so you moved to Ontario to study, did you?
Yeah, but I didn't finish.
So what did you do then? What subjects did you love, or what was becoming your passion and your special interest at 18?
And go away from my stepdad. That was the main thing I wanted to do as far as possible. And yeah, and I'd like photography and art, and I did study there, but it was not made for me because it was like class with a lot of assignments, stuff like that. I was not used to that, and yeah, it didn't really work very well for that, and I couldn't finish. But you know, that's what happened sometime. And after I had to go back to my mom with my stepdad for another year and a half after that. And I did a technical school in graphic designer, and I did finish this one because that class, again, when you go to technical studies, normally is people that have difficulty to learn that go to those places. You know, in Quebec, it's like that because it's not like a university, college, etc. So it was smaller class. Again, I was able to finish that.
So you know, I don't want to ask anything that you don't feel comfortable talking about, but it's only because you've said with quite a lot of animation, I wanted to get away from my stepdad, and then I had to go back and see my mum and be with my stepdad. And I don't need to know the details as such, but when were you finally able to leave home and get away with this person that it doesn't sound like you like very much?
But it's not that I don't like him or whatever. It's only that he didn't know how to deal with me, and he was going so, he got rage sometimes, and sometimes he was so mad, and he couldn't just deal with me. So that's mostly the problem. He was not beating me up, you know, but he was very mouthy, not very, he was a bully sometimes to me, you know, and it was quite terrible to live with that, to always have somebody, oh, you're not good doing this, you're not good, that's not good, why are you always staying in your room, you're always on your computer, and he was always criticizing everything that I was doing. So that put the toxic environment that in it, you know.
That's very hard, isn't it? And I mean, you're ADHD, and I'd like to ask you the question, was your stepdad neurotypical, and you know, did you have other family members who had ADHD? Because it is about 80% genetic, isn't it?
Maybe my mom, maybe, but it's not like me, you know. Nobody is like me at all. Okay, the only person that's close is my cousin, but is a nonverbal autistic, so it's very not the same at all, you know. Be with a nonverbal and ADHD like me, you know, it's very different, and we don't at all is the same, you know. My cousin is like my mother sister, you know, so yeah.
But it's funny because it couldn't be more opposite, but you're still both neurodivergent, so you're still living with a different wiring system. But do you think your stepdad might have been neurotypical?
I mostly think I'm not going to go too much in that subject because this is life.
And that is okay. No,
think
we'll skip on. We'll skip on to that one, because the only reason I asked that is because my mum was neurodivergent and my dad was neurotypical, and they're both gone now. You know, they've both died. But it was very difficult because if my mum couldn't handle me, she passed me over to my dad, and that was terrible because he was neurotypical. So it was a bad situation that happened, because he didn't understand me, and I would get very, very emotionally dysregulated. So it was hard. So after you'd been to different colleges and you were becoming an adult, what did you do? How did you get into the workplace? What sort of jobs did you have?
always freelance because I couldn't really keep a job at that moment. And when you have ADHD, sometimes you're a little bit like late on certain development of your brain, so, and sometimes it's hard. You don't take the life as seriously that you do now, so maybe that's one of the reasons, but yeah, sometimes it was hard because the workplace was not adapted for my diversity, and I've worked to a place that was like open space all the time, and was like, oh my goodness, and people was always talking, running, walking around, etc., etc. So it wasn't really a nice place for me to be for that. It was a good job experience. The people were very nice, but I was not talking about it very much, my neurodiversity anyway, because people always told me to not talk about it.
And it must have been difficult, Melly, because I'm a complete paradox, because because I'm autistic and ADHD, I fight myself all the time, and and I used to like an open plan office, and I love space. I don't like shut doors. I like lots of air, lots of light, lots of sky. And I do like that, but I know that a lot of neurodivergent people have a big, big problem with big open plan offices, with their sensory needs, with the lighting, the noise, the people, maybe people going behind you, people on the phone and all this sort of stuff. And you're saying that you just found that too difficult, did you?
Yeah, it was very hard. And that's why I decided to freelance.
I know from reading your profile that you can help people with WordPress.
Yeah.
But the thing is, I mean, this is what we're all trying to do who are advocating in our community. We're saying, look, we don't need many accommodations. The help that you can give me can be very, very small, and it will benefit everybody. But you have some challenges, but nevertheless, your enthusiasm, your work ethic, the way you work hard, you have a beautiful personality, you're smiling and so enthusiastic. I mean, you've got a huge amount to offer. But if you woke up tomorrow, this is a question I ask my clients, if you woke up tomorrow and a miracle had happened and you could have exactly what you wanted, Melly, within the workplace, what would it be like for you? What sort of job would you have, and what would your work be like?
Of course, it would be like creative, like website design, social media management and things like that, of course, but it will be like a closed space where I can have flexible hours. So if I feel too tired, I can leave and nobody's going to tell me that I didn't do enough work. And yeah, I know there's going to have deadlines, but if the deadlines are met, why should I not leave 1 hour sooner if I feel too tired and start 1 hour earlier in the next morning? It should be, and it shouldn't be like always full-time, because for me, full-time job is like an almost impossible task for me to do, not only because I have this show, but also because my attention span is very lower. And it's very hard for me to stay there 8 hours, and sometimes I just want to go home and relax. I cannot just take a nap at work, even if I have 1 hour break, it's not enough most of the time, and 15-minute breaks neither. I don't know
how ADHD people can take a nap anyway. I mean, if I lay down on the sofa and even if it's nice and warm and everything else, I've got computer brain. So it's, you know, I'm thinking, oh no, there's a crack on the wall. What am I going to eat for dinner? Somebody didn't like my post this morning, and you know, it's all that sort of thing. What's your sleep like?
My sleep is pretty good, but what you said, I think it's more anxiety than ADHD. Because for me, when I have anxiety, I think about all the bad things that happens. I might post and it got likes, nobody likes me, nobody cares about me. For me, that's anxiety speaking.
Yes.
But when I don't have that anxiety and I'm only ADHD and I'm tired, I'm sleeping. Okay, I know that's rare. But if I'm tired, I'm going to sleep, and everybody in my entourage will tell the people that knows me going to say that if I'm tired, I'm going to sleep anywhere. That's a sofa, anywhere. I'm going to sleep.
Us ADHDers, you know, we have particular traits. You know, ADHD is a spectrum. It's different. Everybody is completely different. So one of my my things is impulsivity. I'm pretty bad with carbs and sugar cravings, and I'm not great with rejection and criticism, which is called rejection sensitivity dysphoria. But, you know, and I get distracted and I can be inattentive. How about you? What would you say within your own spectrum? Which traits are the most challenging apart from anxiety that are directly related to ADHD?
Concentration, not being able to do all the work and I wish I can do, but I just can't. That's why I was able to get an intern, so non-paid intern for now, to help me with all the things I'm not good at, like English writing. So I'm quite grateful for that I got that intern that is working so hard for me right now, and I'm so grateful that I have him.
There was when I discovered my ADHD, I came across Edward Hallowell, who wrote the book ADHD 2.0. I'm not so good at reading nowadays. I prefer to listen to things on audiobook, and I listened to his audiobook ADHD 2.0, and I have to say, Melly, it was absolutely brilliant to focus and direct into my particular traits I was having difficulty with. And you know, you're talking about anxiety and having insecurities about the situation that you're in. Well, he does give incredibly good advice about how to try and help distracting yourself in particular ways, you know, so that you're not one of the things he said that I think might be a little bit helpful, because you're talking about intrusive thoughts, which is when you're stressed and when you're feeling anxious. And these intrusive thoughts, they tend to happen when things are still for a moment. So you'll be busy, and then you'll go quiet. And in that quiet time is when the intrusive thoughts can come in sometimes. So what are your sort of main go-to distractions? What will you do to distract yourself, to stop yourself from having intrusive thoughts?
Go to the gym, probably go get a big run. That's what I'm going to do, actually. I try to go to the gym, like I said, I try to lose weight, and going to the gym helps me a lot with my anxiety and my concentration as an ADHD person. So it's really it's not miraculous, but it really helps a lot. And I would suggest to anyone that's living with the anxiety to go take a run. It really helps clearing the mind. That's what I do. And
it is a really good idea. And sometimes if you shake your senses about a bit and use as many senses as you can. So I agree with you, but my ankles are terrible, so I can't run anymore so much, but I can walk. So what I tend to do is I'll go for a good walk, but I'll put a podcast on my headphones, so that that's something separate coming in, and then I'll go out in nature. So I'll make sure the walk has got a lot of you know, a lot of stimulation. So I might go cloud gazing, or I might walk in the woods, or even in a busy shopping mall. You know, it just depends. But it's making sure that there's different senses that you're using: smell, sight, you know, and sound. And then touching the ground, grounding yourself to try and help you with your ADHD. So the gym, I mean, this was one of my questions for you, actually. The gym and, you know, running, they are very, very important to you. Are they your main special interests and hobbies, or apart from the podcast, do you have any other special interests or hobbies that you really love?
I like to write. I actually am writing an ebook about ADHD right now. And I think I'm going to release chapter by chapter on my Buy Me a Coffee Patreon page. It's a page where you can subscribe monthly or simply giving a donation. And I'm writing an ebook right now. I'm sometimes, like I said, planning. Sometimes it's just fun, even if I'm not always using my planner. Just put stickers there, and it calms me down to listening to music, obviously. And sometimes most of the time I'm going to say is watching movies or a series. But when some people say so you lose your time doing that, but anyway, I won't be able to work anyway, so it doesn't change anything about my time span. And yeah, so that's mostly what I do.
So in your the story of your life, the journey in your ADHD life, and the reason that you decided to come up with the ADHD Melly show, what was it? What happened to you that day when you had a light bulb moment and you thought to yourself, tell us that story about how this started. How long ago was it, and what made you think that you would be able to do it?
I don't know. I'm spontaneous. I just do it because I want to do it. Actually, I don't really think. I just do when I want to do. And the 1st May of last year, I decided to buy a domain for the ADHD Melly show. And that's where the ADHD Melly show really started to exist, when I brought the domain. So it's going to be a year 2 that I do the ADHD Melly show. And yeah, I just did it because I wanted to do it. And I was like bored and nobody was talking about it. Or if they were talking about it, it was always flowers and butterflies or etc., etc. And that just annoyed me. So that's why I decided to talk about it a little bit more. Very liberating to just talk about what I felt and my life, how it been too, because I know at the same time that others live the same thing than I did. And it's not normal to be bullied by your stepfather because he's not happy of how you are acting, or he says that you're a little kid and you're acting like a little kid, you don't have any friends, and always telling you always those things, all your life. And that's quite hard sometimes to just deal with it. And sometimes you don't feel safe at home just because you will always be criticized, So that's a little bit why I decided to do it. I want to show people that it's not normal, certain way of behave. And that's at the same time that how you feel and how you act is normal for a person with ADHD. And it's also okay if you feel that way and you act the kind of ways too.
And that is brilliant. And that, that is advocating, that's taking action. That's not just building awareness, it's taking action. So tell us a little bit about some of the guests that you've had on your podcast, because our listeners might be very interested in going on YouTube and seeing some of your guests. Tell me a little bit about who you've had on.
I got Elizabeth Mitchell. That is somebody that does mental health and help men involved with mental health and etc. That I got that person. I also got Wes Woodson that is doing some speak everywhere, and he talks about anxiety, etc. That's very interesting because it's an advocate with mental health as well. I got a lot of people that are very interesting. By the way, I got Rob too. I got a lot of people that came on my show. I just checking my phone because with the mental health, with ADHD, forget names. So
of course, and also I'm sorry I put you on the spot there, but I tell you what, Melly, to make it easier anyway, is I always ask my guests to please give me your links. I'll send you an email about that, and you'll send me a photograph and your links, and I'll make sure that they're on the podcast when they're there. But I guess one of the biggest things really, and we're going to wrap it up in a second, but I ask all my guests this. First of all, of course, I really wish you the best of luck going into spring and summer, and, hope that you get a lot more listeners and viewers. But this is the question. How would you like to see positive change at home, at school, and in the workplace to help all neurodivergent people be included and thrive as valuable members of society?
Just listen that person and being aware of their needs. Just, if it's at school, just have a chat with the student and being honest with their needs and what could make them help. Now it's very different when I was at school and now. I know that some class are now have bicycle with desk where kids can just paddle when they're listening to the teacher, which is very cool. I hope I had that when I was a kid, but when we go back to the workplace, it will be more like listening to what needs to the others' needs, like to do more part-time job and accepting that somebody needs to do part-time job, because people are always like with the full-time roles all the time. So why is that difficult to hire two persons instead of only one? Why they cannot do that? I know that's a little bit a part of the money, whatever, but sometimes money doesn't count when that person knows what they're doing, they're competent,
Yes.
And like I said before, it's just no open space, maybe a closed office, reduced hours in the day, more break, and being okay that they want to work at home that day because they don't feel like going to the office, etc., etc. And for me, just like working from home has been like a lifesaver. Like the only advantage of the COVID was more jobs.
I was just thinking that, Melly,
Yeah.
that COVID, I mean, the planes stopped flying, so I didn't have to hear those all the time, like great big metal pterodactyls going over my head. And to the point where it was so quiet, I could write poetry. And but the thing is, I think, yes, coming out of COVID, there's a lot of mental health problems, but also there's a lot of companies who are going to be much more flexible and let a lot more people work from home and do different hours, and that can only benefit the neurodivergent people who need something else. So I really, really hope that that's going to be the case. So Melly, thank you so much for taking part in the Neurodivergence and Mental Health podcast. I wish you all the best for the future, and you've got so much passion and so much enthusiasm. And I really, really hope that, you can help others and get loads more guests, and wish you all the best. Thank you so much.
Thanks so much for inviting me, Sally. It was a great time.
You're welcome. Take care. Bye, Melly.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you very much for listening to the Neurodivergence and Mental Health podcast. Links and resources will be at the end in the show notes. I very much look forward to meeting you again. Thanks for listening. Bye.